This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social, and I'm now joined by Amir Khan's trainer, Joe Goossen. Joe, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
That's good to hear. How are you finding your time back in the UK, coming to the end of, at the end of Amir's camp, ready for Saturday night?
I love it. I love it. If I had to travel anywhere, and believe me, after a number of decades on the road, you'd really like to have all the fights like a block away from your house, if in a perfect world. But, anywhere in California I travel is okay. Vegas is not too bad. But, when you start going any further than that, it's like going to the dentist, it's like, But I love coming to the UK. I really do. I have to tell you, this is the second time I've been here. The greatest hospitality ever. I love the people in Bolton, Amir's hometown. They treat me like a favorite son. I get too many invites to too many places, to too many dinners, but I seem to take a lot of people up on it when I can. But I just love it. It's a tremendous spot, and the community, Amir's friends, family, and extended family, just nothing short of wonderful people. And I've got a whole new outlook on the UK and just like I say, it's a different way of life here than in America, but I love it.
I know you may not get a lot of time because you only come over a few weeks before the fight, so you may not get a lot of time to go around and see the sights or whatever. But do you get to go around? Have you seen anything whilst you've been over?
No, just restaurants. It's usually because it's running, it's strength training, it's the boxing gym. Those are 3-a-days, and in between that, you're resting a little bit, or you're doing something. There's always something that needs to be done. Now, aside from that, there's been no sightseeing at all. I haven't been to London. When we go to Manchester from Bolton, which is about the farthest place I go, it's to a great restaurant that we go to that Shah Khan introduced me to, and I can't get enough of it. And nothing else will do other than, there's 2 restaurants, but this one in particular is called Lo Greco, which is it's an old school place, and they make the chicken karai like, wow. I've had it different places now, so I'm getting to be a little bit of an expert on it.
Everybody's going to be turning up there now looking for you.
Oh, well, listen, you may think I'm kidding, but I actually looked up the recipe, how to make it, because when I get back to California, I'm going to perfect it. But I got to perfect it like that. Now, the other place was My Lahore, which is a fantastic restaurant, really fantastic. But I think for that one specialty dish, that Lahori Karai is like almost unbeatable.
I'm getting a little hungry now just thinking about it.
I know. I'm working myself into a frenzy, But so that is really, in fact, what did I have last night? I had chicken karai and lamb karai, and then the starters. But we ate at a place locally in Bolton, Murray's, which is a weird name for an Indian restaurant, basically. You say Murray's in California, it's like it's going to be a hamburger joint, But Murray's was really good. But again, it's the Lahori Karai is almost impossible to beat.
Well, I'll remember that next time I'm up at the end of the country. But we are here for the boxing.
Right.
Samuel Vargas. Right. What was your decision and Amir's decision behind choosing Samuel for this fight?
Well, we had discussed opponents. There was a list of opponents, and it could have been one of like 6 guys. I had my favorite, and when I say my favorite, they're all tough guys. But I thought stylistically that Vargas was a good pick. Amir favored that, and I agreed with him. It was between 2 guys, and we both came to the agreement that Vargas was a very competitive guy. See, we had to pick a competitive guy. They were not going to just give us somebody Even Lo Greco on paper was very competitive. He went the distance with Sean Porter, the former welterweight champion, on short notice, 10 rounds, okay? And by his own admission, didn't really train that hard because he didn't have the time. And then when he fought Errol Spence, it went 4 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. Took that on 3 days' notice, according to him. Then he hired Fernando Vargas, former world champion. A hard worker. I've known Fernando my whole life. And Fernando said in the press here last time we were here, they sparred over 160 rounds. In fact, to be accurate, they said we sparred 166 rounds, so they were keeping score. And people were giving me some feedback that were in the area watching. They said, look, this guy is really, this could be a distance fight for Amir. So, yeah, and a lot of people were saying, oh, this is a fight that Amir could actually lose. It's a tough fight coming back from a 2-year layoff. Now these guys were a little critical. We're no Lo Greco, but Lo Greco had been busy. He had a winning record. He only had a couple, 3 losses, just like this guy. Now, just because we blew him out in 40 seconds doesn't make him a bad fighter. It might mean that Amir was just that much better and that much more well prepared, even though we had a short camp. But again, Amir is a superlative athlete. He's proven his mettle and his worth many times over. He was a silver medal winner at 17. I know, I've had amateurs, I've taken them through the Golden Gloves in the USA. To get to the Olympics is impossible. To win a medal is near impossible. So, to do that at 17, beating grown men when you're just a 17-year-old kid, that's an incredible feat. Then to be world champion at 23, you're talking about a unique individual who possesses incredible talent. Now, so to underplay that on their side as they did today and be a little demeaning, of course they're trying to pump their guy up. But I believe I've got the real athlete, the real world champion, former champion, Olympian. I don't think he can compare to us athletically and experience-wise and opponent-wise, quite frankly. So I'm very confident, but not overconfident, because if I had been overconfident, we wouldn't have trained 6 days a week for the last 10 weeks.
There's so many little quotes that you've given me there that I could pick up on and just ask you about. But just to keep on, Samuel, what type of fight do you expect on Saturday night then?
Well, I don't think it's any secret. We're not going to go in there and sit in the pocket in the first, round, even though we work on stuff like that. Because if the flow ever takes you to the inside, you've got to have some knowledge of how to handle that. So we spent a goodly amount of time on the inside with sparring partners, depending on who they were. And then we spent out a lot of time on the outside with other sparring partners. But if the flow takes us to the corner, to the ropes, to the inside, we've prepared for that. Now, ultimately, what does Amir do best? He boxes. He boxes well. But again, we have a blend of options here now that may not have been on the table previously. Amir has told me himself, he says, I've never really worked on this before. I've never really worked on that before. But in my experience and estimation, you have to have, your bases covered, so to speak, on top of what you do best. And what he does best is he boxes. So I don't think it's a secret that we're going to start out boxing this guy. But I think we're going to put our hands on him. And he's looking to put his hands on us, but I just think we've got the speed and the agility to have it our way.
What have you specifically been working on with Amir since you started training him?
Well, there is nothing specific. There's a whole category of things I'm working on. But if I were to, pin it down to a couple, I think what Amir, because he was such a great athlete, is such a great athlete, and could get things done naturally just by his speed, power, elusiveness. I think maybe he may have overlooked during the course of certain parts of a career, maybe a little bit more diligent defensive work. Okay, and that entails a few different types of drills that you would do on the ground that have proven over the decades not just with me, with other fighters, proven effective. So, I've employed those techniques in various forms, and he took to those like a cat to milk. So, I was, but he was enthusiastic about learning it because, like I say, it's what keeps you alive in a fight or certain defense. At the end of the day, when Amir has lost fights, it's never because of his offense. It's always because of his defense. So we of course, we didn't forsake his offense. In fact, we enhanced it, to the 10th power. But we employed a lot of defensive strategy and drills that we worked on every day, 6 days a week. We worked 6 days a week for the past 10 weeks. We ran 6 days a week for the past 10 weeks. We sparred over 100 rounds or more with really top quality guys that you can only really get in California because of the Nevada-Mexico connection there. There's just so many top quality guys out there that will crawl. Yeah, no, they're there. They don't have to travel anywhere. They're right there. But what I'm saying is they really have a way of crawling right into your chest if you aren't capable of fending them off. So we worked our way in slowly with some of those type of really tenacious fighters that are very skilled. And if you make mistakes with them, you will pay the price. And boy, by the end of it, when we came out the other end of the chute, Amir was just really spectacular offensively and defensively, where the guys that were giving him some problems in the first month, the second month that was not happening.
You've obviously been asked about the Phil Lo Greco fight plenty of times since. You came into that mid-camp. If you had the chance to do that at the beginning of Amir's first camp, would you have chosen Phil as his comeback fight?
Well, I didn't choose Vargas for this fight, and I wouldn't have chosen, Lo Greco. I would probably voice my opinion and say, I like it or I don't like it. But that fight was already made, like you said, and I found no problem with it. I looked immediately at the tape with Sean Porter, and I said, well, yeah, he's a rugged guy. He's a rough guy. He's a tenacious guy. He throws a high volume of punches. Maybe not with the greatest power, but certainly he's not a feather-fisted guy. He has several knockouts. So, I would have put my stamp of approval on that one.
If Amir comes through Saturday unscathed and with a victory, if he was to perform in the same manner which he did with Phil Lo Greco, maybe won in the first few rounds, and Eddie's mentioned that he wants to have Amir in a high-end fight, maybe world title fight, or Brook or Manny Pacquiao, whoever you want to name, is there some danger if Amir is able to defeat Samuel in a quick fashion, he's done the same with Phil, but when he steps up, he may not be able to, he may be shocked by the intensity of a world level fight once again?
No. These guys are pros. Listen. There's been plenty of guys that have taken a sabbatical, so to speak, whether it be for injury or just to get a break away from the game. Remember, he went full steam ahead, probably from the time he's been 12 years old to the time he had that hand surgery. In fact, he, as Amir tells me, he fought most of his career with that bad right hand, which tells you he was beating world-class guys with one solid hand. Another testament to his great skill and determination and mind power and physical prowess. I just think it was probably a needed rest and a needed operation. And remember, his last fight with Canelo, previous to Lo Greco, he was winning that fight pretty handily. Now we know that Canelo was cheating. And we know he was cheating with Triple G, and I guarantee he was cheating with Amir. And who knows how far before that. So I'll tell you, that's a dirty trick, and I chalk it up to a guy that really cheated his way to a victory. Because you look at his body now, off the steroids, yeah, I think it would have been a different story power-wise and chin-wise, because those steroids, I guess, turn you into a superhuman guy, because he doesn't look the same as he did while he was on them. But again, that fight should have an asterisk next to it. It really should. If not, something a little bit criminal, to tell you the truth. It's such...
Does Amir feel the same?
Pardon?
Does Amir feel the same?
I don't know. I've never really discussed that with him. I happened to be thinking about it last night. I said, that was really criminal in a way. You're endangering. It's a dangerous game enough. But it's like loading your gloves up with, yeah. It's like, something else that, or taking the padding out of a glove, which was done. And that guy got banned for life that did that, Luis Resto against Collins, and just banged up his face. It was actually criminal to do that. And to me, that steroid advantage, especially if it turns out somebody getting, hurt like that, is in a sense criminal, So it's really, I chalked that up. I put an asterisk next to the Canelo fight. He was a couple divisions out of his weight, and that's that. But I think if Amir, had it to do over again with that guy not on steroids, and his new approach and his new dedication, I think he could have outboxed that guy's ears off all night long.
Joe, you just mentioned Canelo a past opponent, mentioned Phil a past opponent. Some future opponents, maybe Cal Brook, Manny Pacquiao have been mentioned.
Right.
What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, yeah, look, Manny Pacquiao, it's funny because after the Lo Greco fight, somebody in passing asked me who I thought might be a solid, opponent, a high level. And I immediately said Pacquiao. I don't know, I think it was before he won the title. So it wasn't even as if he had won the title yet, which he did eventually, recently, against Matisse. I thought, and I said, I really like the idea of a Pacquiao fight, not knowing that any of this would actually, it's kind of a shot in the dark. Not that there would really be talk about it. And I even qualified it by saying, look, I'm not the manager or promoter, and what I have to say is meaningless in terms of picking opponents up front. But I think Pacquiao is a legend. He is a legend. There are certain guys that are legendary fighters. He will go down as one of the greatest fighters that ever laced them up. To get a win over a legend, that's exciting stuff. So that's kind of why I threw that name out there. And now that there's some possibility of that, I really like that fight better than any fight out there. And then if you are successful with a fight like that, boy, then anybody else out there, it's right there at your doorstep.
There is no doubt Manny Pacquiao is a legend of the sport, but one fight British fans would love to see, we would have loved to have seen it a few years earlier, is the Cal Brook fight. Do you think that will ever happen, and does it have to be at 147?
Yeah, I say this about it happening. Eddie Hearn's right over there. You could ask him that. It's always the name brought up. Before Pacquiao was brought in the mix, it was always Kell Brook. Now, Kell Brook, I know is a 54-pounder, and I know he has a little difficulty making 54, from what I understand. Now, maybe he could cure that problem rather easily with hard work and a good diet. I think he's an exceptional fighter. I think Kell Brook has got some really good skills. I've seen him. I think I saw him fight Errol Spence, right? He fought Errol. Now, did he get stopped by Errol Spence? I think. Yeah, late in the fight. But, and that's against a southpaw. They're inherently more difficult to fight than a right-hander to right-hander. So I thought he did well there, and I saw him a couple other fights, and he's a tricky guy. He's a good counter-puncher. He kind of rock and roll, come back on you. He's good. He's accurate. He knows what he's doing in the ring. Again, boy, it seems like the fans in England really would like to see that fight. But again, to me, if I had a pick, it would be Pacquiao because that's, one is I think a local grudge match, and the other is an international match with Pacquiao, which would just draw people from all over the world.
Well, Joe, I know you've mentioned you hadn't had a lot of time to sleep. You're going to be hungry as well now. No, Amir's left.
Well, you just woke me up. The juice is flowing again, after this interview, because now I'm thinking about, of course I haven't stopped thinking about boxing, the press conference we just had. And of course at 4:30 we have the boxing gym. We're going to drop the last pound and a half. We're going to hit 47, and then we're going to go out to eat so we can eat, today. It's a little jump rope, little sweatsuit, little jump rope. He'll lose that pound and a half, and we'll have a good dinner. And he'll wake up on weight tomorrow. We'll go hit the scales, and then after that, we'll eat in earnest, as they say.
Well, Joe, I hope you have a very successful Saturday night, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time here. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thank you. No, I really enjoyed it, and you asked some really pertinent questions. I think you're going places, kid, as they say in America.
I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you.
You got it. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. It means a lot.